Good morning. In Kampala. Should I put it to you?
Is he one of the banging group? Or?
That's a good one. Have you been banging tables?
Or
do you intend
are
to
you a
bang
banger?
The issue is that the banging group is now in government, so
So we are aligned.
the membership
like
is
I have
conscripted.
done.
Yes. So it's a banging regime. So there's no option. Yes.
Well, you're not banging very well because you have NUP prisoners who've gone and pleaded guilty when there's a feeling that they were not guilty. So where were you?
We've been here. We've been with them. Of course, many people think that these people have been in prison just this week.
4 years.
They've been there for almost 4 years now. We've been representing them since they were first arrested between April and June 2021. Actually, they were first incarcerated in different parts of town where we didn't know. I remember that we were even under COVID restrictions and so on, and we started jumping up and down looking for them until they were arraigned in the General Court Martial in 2021 June. And since then, we've made, of course, the other context is that around that time, so many people were were on remand in different facilities from the General Court Martial. Not just the General Court Martial, other court martials. Mbuya was remanding, Bombo was remanding. So hundreds of especially youthful supporters of NUP were in prison in different facilities. And of course, we've been trying our best. Many of them were released shortly after the swearing in. I remember myself and Honorable Shamim Malend at one point, we secured bail for over 200 people, youths from Bombo. So this particular group is one of those which have been in custody on what we think are frivolous charges, what we think are politically inclinated charges. Actually, many times when people have been talking about release of political prisoners, they had this big group in mind. So for many reasonable Ugandans, we all know that this group is in custody for politics. Even as a lawyer, because I've had a chance to see the evidence of the state against them, I can still state that the state barely has a case against them. So the custody has been used for purposes of ensuring that they don't come out. First of all, we even know that the court-martial, there took decisions of the Constitutional Court which say that civilians being tried in the court-martial is not only unlawful, but it's also unconstitutional. In fact, those decisions ordered that files involving civilians should be transferred to ordinary courts. Attorney General appealed one of the decisions. The Supreme Court granted a stay of that decision, stay meaning that the status quo continues, but then it undertook to ensure that the main appeal is heard expeditiously and the ruling is delivered. Of course, that was 2021, and up to now, we know that 2 justices of the Supreme Court died. There was an empaneling of the court. The quorum was set again. And we're just waiting for the judgment, that judgment of civilian trials in the court martial. In the meantime, government tried how to offload this group without looking shabby. Just like we saw with the Kasese suspects. Because remember, even the Kasese suspects were in custody for years. Unfortunately, some of them even passed away in custody until they pleaded guilty, most of them, and they were released. One of them who didn't plead guilty up to now, his trial hasn't started, and you would have imagined that for one person, the trial would have possibly started much earlier and even concluded, but 7 years down the road. So it was the same case with this one. So they were there on frivolous charges. They were appearing in the wrong forum, if at all they had any case. But even the continued detention was certainly political, and even the release was political, or the guilty pleas.
Yes. Let's work. Let's work backwards a little bit. So most of these people that had been incarcerated were jailed in June 2021.
Before June, they were arrested in April, May, and June. Yes, 2021.
And when they were arrested, what charge were they arrested on?
Initially, they charged them with being found in possession of explosive ammunition, which is a charge under the UPDF Act.
Okay.
And they even attempted to bring, I think, a couple of witnesses until 2023 April, when they amended the charge sheet and now charged them with treachery. Treachery is also an offense under the APDF Act, which carries a maximum sentence of death. And it's akin to treason, only that it's only found. And even then...
So is this acceptable? You first charged with handling explosives, taken to military court, and then change the charge. That is that acceptable?
Of course, even that, and I remember we protested it. We even we asked that the military court refers this matter to the constitutional court, which was overruled. That you hold someone for 2 years, you even insist investigations are complete, and then 2 years after you bring a more serious charge. As if there have been more investigations which have come out after the other ones had completed, when the person has been in custody. So even that in itself is against the person's right to a fair hearing, which is a constitutional and derogable right. That you cannot hold me, say that I've finished all the investigations in this matter, and then after 2 years you bring a more serious charge. Of course, that charge was brought for purposes of putting an encumbrance to their application for bail, such that they say, no, these people are even facing very serious charges. But certainly there was no evidence legally.
And then fast forward to 2024, around October, word goes round that they are going to plead guilty.
Of course,
Where did that come from?
Prior to this has happened in October, but for some of us who have been closer, we know that it has happened. It's been going on for over 8 months now. They've been overcharged by different state agents to these people in custody, telling them, the only way you can get out of here is by pleading guilty. And this is not a rumor, because at one point, I think early this year, around January, we even brought it to the attention of the court, the military court, that actually our clients have told us that that people who meet them even at court premises, who are soldiers, promising them this and that. And of course, even in custody, in different prisons, they were in 3 different prisons. They kept on sending different people to convince them that this is the only way out. And you remember even the Minister of Children Affairs, when he was swearing in, the first thing he said before even he said, we are going to ensure that these people are released. So I think he made it his brief, and he's been sending several. And when they told us, we addressed them as a group about 3 months ago. We told them that, one, as lawyers, we cannot tell you to plead guilty to an offense which you yourselves are saying you didn't commit. Secondly, an offense as serious as treachery, because treachery is a serious offense. You don't just, it's not as casual as common nuisance, which DPP prefers to charge people who protest. So we told them, however, that at the end of the day, it's you in custody. Lydia is a lawyer, and you know that the lawyer can only give advice. The decision is for the client. Yes. So we told them, we gave them the legal advice, of course, and we told them that ultimately the decision is yours, given that there are even some idlers on social media who keep on saying, some people benefit from this for being in custody. So that ultimately the decision is yours. Eventually, they gave in because of that desperation, just like you saw the Kasese suspects. Some of them, of course. And of course, even the condition was that we get a military lawyer. Maybe, for context, Oscar, one of the decisions of the Constitutional Court, why it annulled, say, the trial of civilians, they say that you cannot get justice because the army is directly under the presidency, the executive, where the arms are fused So it's the army trying you, it's the army prosecuting you. In this case, they even go to them, the army to defend them. So you can imagine the justice, the product that they got them a lawyer from the Ministry of Defense, and of course they pleaded guilty. We understand them. We understand where they are coming from. Even when they were talking in mitigation, some of them have contracted diseases from prison, terminal diseases, which have been contracted in prison. And of course, 13 of them have not yet changed their pleas. Of course, of the 13, 9 are in custody. They have not yet changed their pleas because they are saying, we didn't do anything. We can't plead to something we didn't do, which is also within their right. So we really understand.
Yeah. Before we go to that 9, so these ones, was it then a bit of a surprise that after pleading guilty, they were not released? So they have to serve a few more months in prison. Did that come as a surprise to you?
It wasn't a surprise because we've got wind of like I said, this is a script, Oscar. We got wind that, these people plead guilty because it was part of the things they told them that, if you plead guilty, we're going to get a presidential pardon for you. So don't be surprised if they are pardoned in the next couple of days. And then we'll take you to Chankwanzi, we'll give you some startup capital and such that you are rehabilitated. And indeed, I had the media, I actually watched the Minister of Children Affairs saying the moment they were convicted, he said, we've written to the president this afternoon seeking a pardon. So it's all part of the bigger script. But the bigger issue for Ugandans would be, why should political differences be criminalized to the extent that the debate is not even why have these people been in custody? Because for us, we are happy with the release, but would call for an unconditional release because in the first place they were not supposed to be there. The charges are totally frivolous.
And then those who have not pleaded guilty, what happens to them? They will continue being driven to the court martial and so on.
Of course, there are a couple of options. One of them is they have applied for bail before that court. That court has released some people on bail prior. Like I've told you, hundreds of people have been released on bail. Of course, there's also, because of the politics around it, that this operation is not well successful. If all of them are not out guilty, there may also be an attempt to try to show that let's punish you because you didn't toe the line. But then, for us, the bigger demand is on the Supreme Court, which is holding on to the judgment, because even those who pleaded guilty, it would be our wish to see that a normal court overturns that guilty conviction, because the guilty conviction carries, most of a capital offense, carries with it a lot of implications. So we would be happier if the Supreme Court makes a ruling, which we think should agree with the previous Constitutional Court decision that the trial of civilians, their trial in the General Court Martial was unconstitutional. Yes.
Derek,
so whichever comes first.
Yes. Derek Wandera, what are the consequences of pleading guilty to treachery like these 13 people have done? How many are they? They 13?
19. Yes. Thank you, Oscar. You asked me quite a technical question, which should have been asked to counsel what the consequences are, but certainly the consequences are the consequences are more in their life after the prison. We know very well that there are very many visas, application of visas, that when you're applying for one, they ask you for your criminal record. And if you've been convicted for any criminal offense, you can never get that visa. And probably you will never have the chance.
Visa? What about work?
Or even work, or even a job. You will never have the chance of explaining circumstances under which you pleaded guilty, or even how you ended up pleading guilty in such a matter. So it's very, very tough for them. And I hoped that the people who were forcing them in the first place to plead guilty, or who were talking to them or convincing them to plead guilty, they should have thought about such consequences. If they so be that they love these youth so much that they would never want to see them in prison, they want to think about their life after that conviction. If the minister actually sat down and thought what it would mean for this youth you are certainly doing something like throwing them into a dungeon of hopelessness when they leave prison. I don't know, even when they take them to Chankwanzi, like they have planned, I don't know how far that can go. To what end can they support them? They can give them maybe startup support or whatever it is, but then these people are going to have to move on with their lives at some point. And I know that there are many who have been convinced like that into doing certain things. You remember the person, the gentleman who was arrested and burnt with a flat iron, Eric Mwesigwa. I know that he has come out saying that what was promised to him, the money and whatever was promised to him, has never been given to him. Now, if you have thrown this youth into such a dungeon of hopelessness to plead guilty to such a big criminal offense, you have to be very mindful of what you're going to help them and how you're going to help them and to what end. And the consequences are dire in my view. So I felt that there has been an impingement on the justice system of this country, and I hope the judicial officers in this country sit down and think about some of these things where justice cannot be delivered by the normal process, that someone has to go and let these people plead guilty.
Yeah,
and of course, because of what they have gone through, we feel for them, but I wish the government of this country actually cares a little bit more about the youth than just posturing.
Well, there's a Minister of Youth, but Derek and maybe George, when you say they will take them to Chankwanzi, who is it they? Is it the Lydias? Are you pointing a finger at Lydia Anyoto, who is a senior official in the NRM party? Are they the they?
Absolutely.
Is that what you mean?
I know that there is Chankwanzi is run by the Lydias, and Lydia has a very big position in Chankwanzi. So probably she's going to be one of those that's going to be helping them, teaching them karate. I know they learn some karate and how to shoot guns and stuff like that. And I hope that can help them. But to what end is my question.
Okay, I'll come back to you in a little while, because as elections are gearing up, things are going to happen. Over to you, Lydia. These people have had a bad hand, as we discussed last week. Do you think we can put an end to this, whichever way, and then we say now Uganda is clean of guiltless prisoners and so on?
There is the legal and also there is the politics. Clearly the legal is very shabby. These people have been held up for the last 4 years. It's coming to 4 years because I was following the case.
Their prime years.
At some point they couldn't be traced because their problem began during COVID. The laws of the land are very clear. This is an area that the tables should be banging, so that everybody have a right for their day in court. Every Ugandan has a right to their day in court, even when there is a murder. You go to court, you get convicted, you serve. So now that they've been there for almost 4 years, I think, and courts are willing to open to listen to them with counsel, they should be working backwards for the time they have even served before they have had. So for issues of the law, Oscar, there is no debate because our 1995 Constitution and the tenant laws, we have a Bill of Rights. The whole of Chapter 4 of the Constitution speaks to the rights. So we cannot be seen to be wavering from the issues of the law. Yeah. But also there is a matter. There is a matter in the Constitutional Court on whether civilians can be tried in the court martial. The court martial really, in a way, plays issues of like a board of inquiries for matters security, matters military. But there were issues of saying that maybe there are civilians who cross the bar and cross to issues with military, including like military stores. But that I think after the Constitutional Court has pronounced itself about that ruling, we should come out and provide for a law that handles civilians meddling into military matters. That's also very important, so that we know where they are tried, but also there is a law provided for it. That's all I can say about the law. The politics of it.
Before you go to the politics of it, I wanted you to catch you. Were you like me, but you're a lawyer, maybe you are not surprised. I thought that when they said, okay, they pleaded guilty, it's a big thing. They go back to court, and then the court says release. But then they give you another 2.5 months. It can be depressing.
When you are guilty, there is a penalty. There is the discretion of the judge. And also the case to which you are pleading guilty. Yeah, but like we all know in matters of cases, if you plead guilty, there is a lesser sentence. Yeah, there is a lesser sentence, and also there is a lesser penalty, depending on what you have been charged with. So it's not automatic that when you plead guilty, you run home. It doesn't work like that. What I know for sure, depending on the gravity of the matter, is that there is a lesser sentence. And like I've said earlier, if you've already been in prison before the matter has been disposed of, they also put in consideration the time you've spent there, and these are 4 years. So maybe the 3 months are into consideration of the 4 years they've been there, but also pleading guilty. And also there was the matter that were the first offenders. I think there was that record as well, that they'd been first offenders. So that's the law.
So you were going on to the matter of the politics.
The politics, you see, things become a bit meddled up when you mix the politics and the law. Then the debate becomes very difficult. So because for the politics, people would want to have the dominance of space, and sometimes there are those that do it right, but there are those that do it crude. So I don't know I don't know where we draw the line now, because when you talk about, you have been telling me how we should be handling young people, but I was once young, and I didn't just happen to be this age. So we have a duty of care to the young people of Uganda. You even see what the census is saying, that they are the majority of our country. 75% are under the age of 35. You cannot wish away young people, but also it cannot begin when they are youthful. The programs and the campaign to model young people should start with you, Oscar, in schools, in families, and then we grow up to when they are adults. I left university. I'd been a student leader. Those who are in my career with me know this. When my path was very clear that I was going to be in leadership, and I've been, all along. I look around me. Some have fallen off. Some joined the public service. Others are. But it's very, very important that you grow the networks. But family is important. School is important. Institutions are important. But also government is important.
I'm trying to link with the topic. So you're saying
you are telling me about the politics.
Yes.
And I'm trying to explain to you that not just happen. One day I was also young, but you are born. And I'm saying that when you are growing, you choose the path, or systems help you to choose the path, networks.
So that
and I'm saying that if these 19
were they not mentored well?
No, I'm not saying that. If these 19 are political young people, it's their right to be political.
Yeah.
So it's not only the government does not make people political, because not everybody born is political. I'm trying to tell you that there's segmentation. You take your path. So if all these 19 are political, then there has to be political space for them to negotiate their contribution to the country in the political space. That's what I'm trying to say.
I hear you.
And if you are going to be an activist in the political arena, then you know that there is a price to pay. I have paid a big price myself in politics. No, you can put the mizani, the weighing scale on whether or not it's fair, but for sure, politics is not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
These 19, legally, there was a lack of duty of care for their legal rights. But politically, you have to fight your way to the political space. I wanted to ask to differentiate the two.
I hear you, but you want to be safe. That if you're an activist, you'll be protected by the government. You will not be jailed unfairly.
If you're an activist and you walk in the streets and you are not you are falling away from what the police is telling you, surely you'll be a victim of tear gas.
It's different from committing a crime. If you've committed a crime, that's a different.
That's for another debate. At least I've been able to disaggregate the law from the politics. Our politics sometimes gets rough. I come from a very strong opposition community. So we are the minority where I come from. So I know what I'm talking about. The stronger the team, the vulnerable, you pay the price. It's about numbers. And it's about who is vigorous and who has the energy. So I am not speaking from a side of comfort. I'm speaking from a side of political space is tough. Yes, it is rough. And you have to negotiate your way and space. For the law, our laws of Uganda are clear. Everybody should have their day in court.
Yeah, correct. Welcome to the gang, Honorable Gorethi Namuga. Pleasure to have you, though late to Mwalimu's class.
Good morning, and my apology. I was enjoying the submissions of the Gayaza girl, and I should say I'm very excited to hear her submission because, I normally say where it calls for objectivity, let us be. Because it's our duty in whichever position that you do occupy to protect those that you can. So I want to thank her for the first time. She has presented as a nationalist, at least for the first time. For me for the first time, because at least for now, we shall see for the other day. Right. I want to thank my colleagues for really committing in this time. However, for me, when you talk about political prisoners and issues of the law, it gets me back to the sector of justice, law and order. Colleagues, it doesn't begin from court. It begins from police, office of the DPP, what is in our prisons, the Ministry of Justice, Law and Order, then we get to the laws. The fact is this sector is in disorder. The sector of justice, law and order is in disorder. That is why we've seen each and everything in the line of the law taking the political direction, because those that are supposed to show us the direction have decided to serve one person. Because if, any sensible person, when I had my colleague Lydia submit that these were first offenders, what comes to your mind? A first offender on a charge of treachery, owning ammunitions, a first offender? So this is very regrettable to our country that is so young, with a very young population. I should inform the country that when you look into the statistics of our prisons, we have a capacity of 20,000 occupants in prisons. For now, we have 75,000. Most of them are on remand. Why are they on remand? Because as we spend more time on the political prisoners, think about people who have spent time in prisons, 10 so many years, but they've not had an opportunity to be heard. The political prisoners are lucky that at least because of politics, this is coming out. And I should inform the country, it's not that the NRM was very willing to pardon, I should say to pardon, because the whole craft is at the end of the day, they will be pardoned. It is because it has become too big for them. They are dodging criminal liability. Otherwise, how do you hold somebody in prison for 4 years without being tried? How? In such a country where we committed ourselves, honorable colleagues and whoever is listening to us, we made a commitment in our constitution to follow the rule of law, and whoever is sworn in as whether president or member of parliament, you swear to protect your people. So is this the best the NRM government can do to the youth of this generation? When you look at the economic crisis we have, the prisons has been crying severally. The budget they have is now constrained. They don't have uniforms. They don't have enough food in prisons to feed the prisoners. The accommodation for the staff themselves, they are still sleeping in houses of asbestos. So the prisons itself needs to be helped. Now, instead of leaving people, because if you hold somebody who ought not to have been in prison, you are denying them and even government an opportunity to gain from them. Because we are the ones that are responsible to work and sustain our government. So if you hold these youth in prison, don't you think it is a loss to you as government? You are feeding people who would have been out there taking care of their families. You've created an element of vulnerability on their families. I'm telling you, in Uganda, we say, but what raises that? Somebody becomes an orphan at an age Because if Olivia Oltraid is in prison, the children are automatically orphans for 4 years. They have missed that mother care. So really, I think leadership in Uganda, we need to come back to the drawing board. We need to negotiate. Mr. Museveni needs to think broader than himself. You know, I saw him celebrate 8 years. He told us, you people, for me, I'm thinking about heaven. I'm thinking about heaven. When he celebrated his birthday, I saw the Bazukulu were around him, and I asked myself, why don't you also think about the Bazukulu that have been tortured? The Bazukulu that have been misplaced in some places because of political reasons. Lydia said it very well, that politics is not for the faint-hearted. Yes, but the reason as to why we have leaders and we have the role is to give direction. Who is responsible to doing this? You know, when we win an election, no matter the circumstances, you've won. Tomega Noluma, you've won. You're already there. Then why do you go ahead to create, all this anarchy out there? When you look at, I was looking at the courts. We still have challenges of staffing. These colleagues who are in the sector of law, no, we don't have staff. We still handle our systems manually. We fail to have an automated system of case handling. We have a lot of backlog. So instead of concentrating on how to streamline and strengthen institutions, we are here on issues of political prisoners. How have we reached there? So for me, I call upon colleagues. And, when you look at how these young children have been messed up, you know what it means to have a capital offense? How if you become committed of such an offense, it is a conviction. And their future, as I said, their future is now they don't have a clear path. So if you're a government that cares, actually you would have released them unconditionally. If you cared, that is, because they were first offenders, release them unconditionally. So I believe the appeal will be heard. Let them release the unconditional. But Mr. Museveni should know. There is a statement that hurt me so much when they said these were saying, the president, please, you should help us. The president should help us. Helping who? He's not helping us in any way. The president should follow the law. He should not help anyone. We know these things of pardoning, those come later. But when it comes to following the law in execution of his mandate as the president of this Republic of Uganda, he's a steward. Mukulu Museveni mukumi askari, he's an askari. So he should not behave as if he's the alpha and omega of everything. So in brief, let us make systems work. We shall enjoy, every one of us will enjoy. At any time, every one of us can be a suspect. But treat others the way you would like to be treated. Mr. Museveni says that all the time. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. So can we treat him the same way? Those people were tortured. Some have been killed. And also bring on table the issues of the missing persons. We still have people who are missing. It is him who committed himself and said, how can I lead a government where people can disappear with how? We've put this to the floor of Parliament. Chibalama and others, where are they? The Prime Minister, Honorable Nabanja, made a commitment and said Chibalama is in prison. Which prison? Now, they turned the version and said, these people of NUP, all these people went to Canada, they went to America. Who controls the borders? Does NUP has the authority to let somebody, go abroad without going through the normal processes of government? Lastly, if they claim that we get money, NUP gets money when these people are in prisons, release them, release them. Because it all, because the intention of this one is to weaken us as the opposition. So how do you facilitate a business that makes one earn? So I would kindly request of this government, Mr. Museveni, as your muzukuru, I call upon you, as you think about heaven, as you also get excited when you look at your bazukuru every day. He said he doesn't work for anyone, he works for himself and his family. Allow these people to come out and work for their families. You've wasted their youthful age, colleagues. You go to a prison, live when you are 35, 40 and above. Your youthful age would have been wasted. So please let these political prisoners go home, and also unconditionally, and also think about decongesting prisons. Constructing more prisons is not a solution to the issue of law and order. Decongest prisons so that we can even save the country money. You don't have money, but you waste money feeding people who would have been out there feeding themselves.
Okay. Listeners we are streaming, so sometimes you need to look at our streaming pages to see the force of Honorable Namuga when she's making a presentation. But George Musi, you wanted to add on something before I wanted to the journalist Derek Wandera.
I wanted to comment something about what Lydia said regarding the politics. When we came down as a country, almost 30 years ago and we agreed to this consensus we call a constitution, there were minimums we agreed to. And even politics was envisaged to be played within the realm of the law. When you talk about the last 3, 4, 5 years has seen a big test to all the constitutional minimums, the basic rights, detentions without trial, torture, extrajudicial killings. You saw it on the streets of Kampala, November 2020, and so on and so forth. Now, there are even people who say that, NUP, why didn't NUP negotiate with these people for the release of these people? Of course, those people are missing one basic point, that when you negotiate, or if you negotiate, to what extent? If you negotiate for the 32, and then it doesn't bring an end, because they even bring an example of Alan, that, Honorable Alan Sawanyana, they negotiated for them. I'm seeing it on the streets. So how comes you didn't negotiate for the others who are in custody, charged on the same file? Because the co-accused, the trial hasn't started, and they're still in custody. So if you don't negotiate for the environment and you negotiate piecemeal, then to what extent? So we should agree as a country. Do we still believe in this consensus we agreed to, which we call a constitution? Or it's time to put it aside and stop the pretense? And then these 32 people, actually about 3 or 4 of them were not even connected to NUP at all. They just found themselves in the wrong place. Of course, they were found in different. Some of them even didn't know each other. The group which is now accused of having committed treachery as a group. 5 of them were from Olivia's backyard in Mbale. 14 were from Boyogerere.
I'm Lydia.
Some others from different parts of Kampala, but some, 1 or 2 or 3 of them, were as a result of being in phone contact with the desired person. So they found them. They were not even political at all, and they have spent almost 4 years in that detention. So the issue should be, and many people expect us to be clapping for that when we've been calling for the release, has been unconditional release, because we believe in the first place they're not supposed to have been charged. Otherwise, this business of people want us to clap for the release on frivolous guilty pleas reminds me of defilers in the village who have some money. Then after they say, okay, I'll pay for the school fees, I'll take care of the defiled girl, and then the family is expected to clap. The issue is these people shouldn't have been in custody, even for 1 day. Yes.
Derek, you're the journalist here. And it's like the election campaign is starting. So are we going to have that cycle again of kidnaps and abductions and so on?
I've covered 2 elections now, 2016 and 2021. 2021, which was at the highest. Not almost. I was arrested. I was arrested. Yes. Yes. Oscar, the political climate in this country has continued to grow in violence, and certainly violation of the law. And as a journalist, covering these campaigns has only gotten harder. I followed the 2011 election. I was still in school, and the other elections, and I know that everyone knows that the arrests, the kidnaps, and killings as well have kept growing. For instance, in the last election, at least 54 people died on the streets of Kampala and other parts of the country, and it has kept growing. Many have been dying of other things, but this time round it was a bullet on someone's body and sending them to either hell or heaven, and I know that this is going to grow even much worse this time we're going for the 2026 election.
Why do you think that?
I feel the more the government has gotten into has overstayed in power, there is certainly fatigue that has grown in the people, and the fatigue has brought frustration to them. There is so many, and a big section of this country a big section of people in this country who believe this government should have left power quite a number of years ago, and those are always going to show agitation when we are in a political system, a political season of campaigns, and the government in power will want to hold everything at calm. They will want to calm that situation down, and so they will come full force. So when you bring the full force of the people who are the electorate, and then they meet the full force of government power, mercenaries and the army and all the other security agencies, certainly there is going to be an anarchy in all those situations. The reason you're going to see that when one of their political leaders, Bobby Wine, is arrested, they're going to go on the streets and they begin burning tires, they begin demonstrating, demanding that their leader is released. I don't know whether in any election a leader was arrested and there was such an uproar like there was in 2021 November. 2020 November during that campaign. So as journalists, we shiver when this election season comes, because we also are caught in the melee. We also bear the brunt at times. We are arrested, we are beaten, we are hounded, and we are also impeded in terms of our freedoms of expression and disseminating
doom.
Absolutely, you have no any other thing to predict other than doom in this country because of what has happened before and what's going to happen.
Honorable Namuga, your NUP, do you think there will be space for campaigns for members of NUP, or you're looking at getting ready for more abductions, more arrests, more incarceration?
The question would be, who provides the space? The beauty of all we are going through is, I think now...
Someone might say, who's provided the space for you to be here now? Because you are here and speaking.
Politically out there, because if you say the space, who provides it? Constitutionally, I have the space. The people provide the space. The space that you should have as the NRM is the same space the opposition should have. But the beauty is that at least people know what is happening. The people will provide us the space. And we shall fight for it. We shall fight for it. And Lydia has told you politics is not for the faint-hearted. We shall fight for it. But why do we get to that level? Why? Because if you respect a multi-party dispensation, why don't you give space to all the participants? The winner takes it all. So do we have to fight that much? She knows politics is about numbers and tactics. Let us use the teams that we do have, bring out good manifestos, and compete fairly. I know our colleagues cannot give that environment because they think they have the army, they have the police. They've turned it into an NRM army. They've turned it into an NRM army, and that is where we are disappointed. So as we do go through all this, I would like to implore Ugandans, get interested in how politics in this country goes. Don't leave it to a few. People think it is only,
Maybe we fear prison.
No, how? Then who will go in prison on your behalf? Who will go there?
19 people have been in prison for 4 years.
So you will not have leaders? Then if you fear prison, then shall we ever have a country without leaders? So please join the politics. Join the politics. Let us fight together to have sanity in our country. Leadership is not for the faint-hearted. We might fight so hard. But I know God is good. That the NRM, every day that goes by, their space is shrinking. Every day that goes by, the space is shrinking because they can no longer provide basic services to the community. So I just implore the leaders that let's not misuse power. And they should not get, they are so fearful that could be when another government comes in, we shall also do what they have been doing. I want to comfort her that we shall not get to their level. They should be comforted, hand over power peacefully so that we can live a peaceful country. Yes.
I've said here before that we don't have opposition in Uganda, and I've paid the price for it. Oscar, if you are in opposition, you should be better than where NRM is. I know Uganda has districts and areas and who have elected people from opposition, but you are worse than NRM in terms of service delivery, in terms of accountability. So I want really to applaud you people who think, who have so much venom against NRM as a party. I want you to lift the veil and look at the people across board. We just need good leaders. If Namuga you thought that because we are NRM we are bad, then we should be having districts which are led by opposition performing miracles, because the budget that you allocate does not have colors. Mbale district or the city receive the same money like Masaka city and Masaka district or Rwengo or Lira, but go there and ask about accountability. Projects are not moving, schools are not finished, health centers are not working, staff are not. Why haven't you people who are in opposition and have taken over leadership, people have trusted you with their vote, you are leaders in those districts, why aren't your districts shining better than those that are led by NRM? It's a scorecard. And then even at Parliament, we sit here and witness how divided and how derailed you are. If you are opposition and you are better, please do not just talk about it. That's why for me, I don't really look at colors. I look at performance, I look at leaders. Our country, we thought that we'd use the colors as vehicles to deliver good leaders. It's not working, but at least we have a window to get good across the board. If you Namuga, you are good, I'm not going to look at your color. I'm going to look at the leader that is good. But thinking about colors, I think by now you should know. You should bring us and say, this district is led by members of parliament from opposition and the chairman and the councillors. This is how we have delivered. This is the difference between this district that is led by the opposition and this one which is led by. Because at the end of the day, delivery is in the village, in the parish, in the sub-county. So that's where it should be reflected. That's where the mirror should come from. Olivia. And wait for 2026. I can talk here without any fear of contradiction. NRM is going to win 98% or 99. Why? Because they got excited and voted opposition in some areas. They've received the worst support or delivery. They are going to come back. My plea now is to make sure that with the NRM people we elect are really good leaders. They are not just the yellow color. They are good leaders. They have a calling in leaders. They are passionate and they are empathetic about service delivery. That's what we want to see.
Lydia, I want to go a little bit backwards on a question to you. And you remember you've been an electoral officer in the NRM party. When
I was the commissioner of the NRM Electoral Commission and the head of petitions, right. The legal officer for petitions in the party.
Okay.
So for 10 years.
Yes. So when you have NRM primaries, I have noticed.
We've just had NRM primaries in Chisoro, and the Honorable Rose Kabagenya has got the flag. I want to congratulate the Chisoro people for voting.
I'm still trying to squeeze in the question to you. So when we have NRM primaries, apart from this last one, they are very bloody. You know, we've seen violence, we've seen kicking.
One?
This the one leader just
that one.
But they are bloody.
They
fights. So how come the ones for NRM never get arrested? They never get incarcerated.
You see the primaries. The primaries in the NRM party.
For NRM primaries for them to fight
we keep improving. It's such a fight. It's competition.
Oh, I have videos I can show you.
I can give an example of Zimbabwe where one gangster here comes from.
Yes.
It is competitive. I'll give because in some of the areas,
Mbale,
let me tell you,
lady here comes from.
No, I come from Mbale city.
I can give you an example. I have videos.
I come from
how
Mbale
tough that
city.
One was, kicking basins and so on.
Yeah,
so how come the ladies
the
were not
NRM
arrested?
primaries are very competitive. The reason so
and they can be violent.
And they can be violent. They can be out of hand.
Yeah.
But the reasons, but then I want to say that we keep improving because then we learn lessons. But the reason why they are very competitive in some of the areas, I mean not to mention the regions, really that is the election. Because in some areas when you win NRM flag, you are done. Your one leg is already in parliament. In some areas like where I come from, it's actually maybe the eye or the finger because you still have another war. But what has happened in the past that actually all people that go for primaries, again, you come back. You can have the flag, but then others also come back as independents. So what are we doing? Is that Mount Party in Uganda has not yet been able to find its route. Because we began Mount Party, at least for this time around, in 2005 following the referendum, for which I participated because I'm a founding member of the NRM party. But we've been struggling between balancing discipline, putting a tight system in place, by the end of the day delivering competitive candidates in an election. So this is not a cup of tea, but it is work in progress. And in many times we want people to we even change the system. You know, when we had the delegates elections, what we do call electoral colleges, people began hiding voters. You'd find someone taking 4 buses, they hide them. So we got away from that and said, now let's have universal suffrage, but also people lining, so that you can see a line and say this one has won. So now we have even digitized. This by-election in Chisoro, it was testing our register. The biggest issue is also a good register. So in Chisoro, we were able to test a register for the whole district. We want to digitize it and make sure that with digital and with these cameras, we are able to reduce conflict, but also be more transparent, so that people have a believable primary. So ours is work in progress. It may sound shabby, but we are on it because it's the only way we'll be able to deliver candidates that are competitive. And that's why we are now thinking of actually the way we are seeing the country moving, because you cannot just dream. Surely what's happening in our sister parties, NRM is going to win many more seats in parliament.
98%.
99% of the.
Let me use this
2026.
The last 4 minutes to the break with you, Honorable.
Because we are in a better position.
What Lydia hasn't answered. So my question to her, and she hasn't given an answer to that one particularly, is how come the NRM activists never get arrested? Why are your activists the ones arrested? Are you rowdy? Are you badly behaved? Are you not law-abiding? What happens?
First of all, I should say out there we have more numbers than the NRM. Oh. Everyone knows the NRM. They rig elections. That's why they find themselves occupying the big seat. Otherwise, if it was a credible, you know.
But I want to let you know, because me, I'm a national campaigner, and yet I go around. There are many constituencies in Uganda where you don't even have candidates. How will you win if you don't have candidates? You are not able to fill the candidates in the whole country.
That is very true.
It's true. How will you win?
The challenge,
you don't have candidates.
The challenge that Lydia has, she wants to compare a 90-year-old baby with a 3-year-old. That is the challenge that she does have.
It is you then. Why do you compare yourself?
First address the question.
The thing you should know that at least now, when it comes to numbers, we have more numbers than the NRM. The reason as to why the NRM team is not arrested, it's because they are the ones in power. They misuse the power. Otherwise, you cannot say that the NUP supporters are rowdy. Does that also apply to the FDC? Does it apply to the ANT? They are misusing the space that they do have. They have the Maje, as Honorable Anita sometimes said, so they are at liberty to use it in any way they want. But even it is a script that they have, because whenever you imprison people, it's another way of threatening those that would have joined the politics. So we know it is one of the tools they use to reduce on the numbers that we do have. But I do call upon whoever is interested in leadership, we should not be threatened by these minor tricks of the NRM. And two, I want to inform the same party too. Normally, when even they imprison our people, it is at times a credit to us. Because when we were in the 2021 elections, with the tear gas and the brutalization that they did on the Honorable Chagulanyi, many people hate the NRM government the more. So I implore you to always do all that, Sagare. Please do it. No, at a stage managing what? Please, whenever you come to us.
As we stop for a break, George, I have a message for you from an advocate. Tells you, Oscar, is just a correction to make. It is not accurate that King Mumbere and his subjects pleaded guilty. They applied for amnesty to the Amnesty Commission under the Amnesty Act, which granted to them. It is on that basis that the DPP dropped the charges. The former Prime Minister, who did not apply for amnesty, is undergoing trial at the International Crimes Division of a High Court, and his case is being heard. That position is quite different from a person who has pleaded guilty in a trial. Yes, we stop for a break. Welcome back from the break. Lydia, I hear Madame Lydia Nyoto about law and order. But why does the NRM government adopt a strict, almost vicious attitude towards what they call street disorder, opposition activities, but have a much more tolerant attitude to things that are more damaging to the country, such as corruption? And if NRM is still work in progress after 40 years, why is a 6-year-old NUP not work in progress? That is John in Nakawa. Dan in Kamocha says, remind Lydia to remember how government works. Whatever is collected in the districts is remitted to the consolidated fund, and it is from there that districts are allocated funds by the government in power. So, Honorable Namuga, you were in Parliament, and maybe we are not yet. A long time ago, we discussed rationalization, but this morning I want to discuss how you conducted yourselves in Parliament regarding the rationalization bill. We see more division, shouting at each other, and yet we thought this process was coming to an end. What happened?
No, actually, we are doing our work. There was no division. But, whenever you have such a contentious matter, those are expected. I want to thank all colleagues, the 77. I want to thank them for having stood with their people in regard to the coffee bill. And also to employ more colleagues from the NRM.
So the 77
yes,
lost the bill.
What
did they lose?
It's not yet lost.
Okay.
We stood with the people.
The 77.
The 77, the 155 decided to stand with the president.
Right.
Because amidst all threats, if one can know what was inside there, messages, people were being pulled. Some of them had run to our side to come and sign for us.
Let's start from, with a better description.
Yes.
So 159 voted for what?
155 voted that the bill will proceed to the committee stage. And the second, yes. Right. Then the 77 were saying we shouldn't proceed. So we lost at that. Okay. But we've not lost on the entire bill. Okay. We've not lost.
So you're part of a 77
yes, that
did not want to proceed to the committee. Why don't you want that to happen?
First of all, I should inform the country that we are against the rationalization of UCDA as a sector. I do admit and agree that the government is very burdened financially, administratively. The administrative costs are too high, but that cannot compromise on services that we do give to the people. Coffee is a strategic key item. All I should say, it is one of our main exporters. Coffee, actually for us, we are supporting the coffee, dairy, and the cotton. But for our colleagues, the speaker said, for you who come from coffee growing areas, leave the dairy to those who own it. Leave the cotton to those who own it. And our friends with the cotton said, for us, we are comfortable with rationalizing. And the cotton went. The dairy, they were comfortable with the dairy, and the dairy went. Now we are saying that much as government wants to save 1.9 trillion from all the sectors, this is not the only area of saving. We can also look into other areas of extravagance. We look for ways of saving money than killing institutions that bring in an income. Look at all the merits that UCDA has, and you also look into the areas of generating locally raised revenues. UCDA would serve better if it is an independent authority than being mainstreamed in the ministry. Everyone was asking, because people think this is government. Yes, UCDA is government and the ministry is government. Why are you scared of having this back to the ministry? But I told you, I've had an opportunity. At least I was part of the budget committee, and now I'm on the accountability side. PAC, we've been looking at the performance of these entities. I told you, the entities are crippling. They have failed to utilize their budgets, number one. I told you about the key projects that have been in the Ministry of Agriculture. Number one was this issue of the foot and mouth disease. I told you we had millions of doses of vaccines expire in the stores, yet people wanted them out there. You had the issues of the goats. So we're saying, before you rationalize, why don't we prepare these ministries? Why don't you create proper structures so that we can be comforted that when this one becomes a directorate within the ministry, it can serve well? We've had bitter examples, which I thought the NRM government would take as a pilot. Number one, the Ministry of Science, Innovation and Technology, that is now under State House. I'm telling you, the ministry is in shambles. The staff have never, and now it is 3 years and a half. They've never settled. You have REA, the electrification agencies. Poles were put all over the country in 2018. Ever since we rationalized the REA, we have never had any single electricity line distributed to these different parts of the country. So we are saying we appreciate the financial constraints on the side of government, but that should not form a principle or main reason as to why you should rationalize these agencies. I should inform the country that this decision was hurried. The NRM government did not prepare enough. That is why when you look into their bills for all the agencies that were supposed to be rationalized, the objectives are general, the same. The defects are the general the same. They did not get time to look at these entities independently. And also the stakeholder engagement. Yes, in the first place, they consulted, but for this second phase, or in line with with Mr. Museveni's directive, there was no a comprehensive stakeholder engagement. But still our worry is, Mr. Museveni has always shown interest in having the coffee to himself. Don't forget the Penetti deal. It has not been buried. It is still there. So Penetti and that MOU, we still remember it. 2, remember the 37 billion that was given to Mr. Rabogo for coffee value chain addition. We are asking, why do you give money to an individual for value addition? Yet we have a ministry and we have UCDA in place. Why don't you use the mainstream to have some of these activities handled? So it has been the intention of government. It has been the intention all the time for all these economic activities that seem to be productive to the people, boosting the incomes of the people. NRM wants to pull it to themselves. But I should say politically, because we are here for both politics and economics, Mr. Museveni is not happy with the people getting money. In any case, because of the monetization of politics, you can no longer give in the regions, coffee growing regions. People made money in this last season, so you cannot bribe somebody with 10,000 when they have the money. So that is also one of the areas that is looking at. Please pull the coffee side that you can monopolize. I'm telling you, the deal is to give coffee to Mr. Rabogo. That is why he was given money for coffee value addition.
Honorable Namuga, this rationalization thing has been on for quite a while.
Yes.
So, and the NRM has had a caucus on it and so on. So were you caught sleeping? I mean, you knew at some point this was bound to happen, that you'd have a discussion on it.
No, but we've always had discussions. In the first place, we all objected to the bill, even including of our colleagues of the NRM. I want to ask initially, what changed? Did they bring something different? The only difference is bring the same thing and a different directive. That is where we are. So, and when you I want to warn everyone out there, don't make this coffee thing tribal. Don't make it tribal, because it is circulating all over media. Don't make it tribal. This thing of make sure the Uganda don't get the numbers, we shall not get there. And I'm telling you, we had a press conference yesterday as Uganda caucus. Coffee is not for Uganda. This is for the whole nation. So don't make coffee tribal. Otherwise, when we get there, we shall lose it. And I want to inform whoever is involved, we are not going to entertain this bill anymore on the floor of Parliament, because my colleagues in the legal sector know that you cannot have a legislation that is sectarian, that is tribalistic. So automatically this bill collapses. I'm not a lawyer, but I want to inform the country the coffee bill has collapsed, and we shall not allow it to be read for the second time.
Yes, I don't know how you can stop it though with the numbers.
You wait.
Yeah.
You will see.
Okay.
You will see.
The Honorable Leader is both a lawyer and from a coffee growing area. You've had these discussions even at caucus, and at some point we thought you had agreed on everything. So are you surprised that when you get to Parliament there's then heated discussion about moving the bill forward?
For avoidance of any doubt, I come from Bale City, and it is the headquarters of
coffee in Uganda,
a community that grows Arabica coffee, the best coffee in the world.
And you might as well say
it is also the community
that
has nothing to do with the coffee. It is also the community that has what normally they call the surviving cooperative union. BCU still stands. We still have coffee farmers, and there is a license. Our people export coffee. So it's not a Uganda issue, actually. I have to agree, it's a national issue, it's an international issue, and it's a historical issue. My community, actually, you cannot talk about Bugisu without mentioning coffee and circumcision. Kadodia, so, and Malewa, 3 things, and Mount Elgon, 4 things. So anyway, I attended all the caucuses of the NRM that discussed both issues of rationalization, what they call the RAPEX, but also specifically on the issue of the UCDA. Listening to many members of parliament, they were as passionate as we've seen on the floor of the House. But when they were in the caucus, they were convinced that government, which has the executive powers, is reorganizing departments and institutions, and that for the UCDA they will be given a window to take care of all the fears which were being raised in a transition of 3 years. That's what I heard.
An impression was created.
There will be a 3 years transition for UCDA, and I think NITAU, if I remember well. NITAU. 3 years transition for two. But the principle stood that rationalization will happen. But the concerns which were raised about the incompetence of the Home Ministry, about the mandate. Interestingly, the UCD Act has just been amended recently, but their biggest mandate, which I know, is they do the licensing, the regulatory, whatever. But and when people talk about Ministry of Agriculture, for me, my biggest interest has also been Ministry of Trade, because coffee is an export crop, and it is under cooperatives. And for us who have cooperatives that didn't collapse, that run coffee as a society, we think that also Ministry of Cooperatives is very important. I've not heard them come out to speak so much or to make a case or against. I've seen only the people from Ministry of Agriculture. But those two must go together. Ministry of Trade and Cooperative must work together with the Ministry of Agriculture to make a case for rationalization of UCDA. What I heard from the caucus is that it will pass, and then it will be given a 3-year transition to address the concerns of what the members are raising. What has now entered Parliament looks like it's opposition-led. But even in the NRM caucus, they raised the same issues about coffee, and they were able to unpack and discuss and tell them how things are going to work, but they want to shed off the parallel structures. They want to shed off the overload of the cost of administration. If someone tells you, I'm the head of government and I'm reorganizing government, this is the executive function, you talk about the inefficiency that I'm giving you 3 years to reorganize and to be able to speak to the concerns of the people. What else do I have to add, Oscar?
You say fair enough.
That's the debate on the floor. The voices of, and I want to say that this is not an opposition issue. The problem, it happens when you make it political, because in politics you want to win, and sometimes you want to win at any cost. That's why sometimes you suffer tear gas and chiboko, because people want to win at any cost. It's a, why are you pointing at me? Because sometimes journalists, you want to be neutral, but when you get to the field, you are partisan, you take sides, so you're beaten. So even as journalists, so the issue is that the 3 years transition should be given maybe clear steps to address the concerns of the members of parliament, or even the growers of coffee of the committee. By the way, people look at it as growers of coffee or members of parliament. But coffee has kept Uganda's economy standing. So it's a purely, I'm even surprised that you people can say, if you come from this area, cotton talk, diary talk. No, this is a national issue, because the coffee's inputs or exports go straight to the national treasury.
Okay. Oscar, if you can allow something little,
the national treasury.
I wanted to inquire
so
from Lydia.
So it's a national issue.
Because,
you even pass the
because if we want to rationalize this within the next 3 years,
the transition,
why don't you prepare and then rationalize when you are ready? Because the thing is, what they are pushing for is now approve, rationalize as we prepare. Now we are asking, why don't you prepare and rationalize when you are ready?
Hold on, we're going to come back to that. In a
but
second.
then how will you because when you amend the constitution, I mean the act, the UCDA Act, that's what I heard. You now work within what is pertaining. But remember that the campaign against the rationalization was so heavy that a decision had to be taken. But again, you see, Oscar, even as we go for a break, UCDA is a government department. Yeah. So I don't know. Personally, I don't understand.
No, but as I also give her information. This is very little. As I also give her information, she knows the difference and the power between an authority and the government. The bureaucracy, the other side doesn't serve this side. That is why even some donors have shifted to giving government direct ministries money, and they have opted for off-budget support. Because of mistrust in government agencies. That is how far we've gone, Lydia. We should accept.
Let's go to Derek and then George, and then we'll look at
the general rule. In 1 second, the general rule is that there is a government on the land
for the people.
For the people, because the Museveni was elected by people. So for you to think that you see people's needs more than the chief executive of the country, I think it's post-mortem. The guy is in the government, he's rationalizing government, he has mobilized. I think you should sit down and see in the 3 years what must be done, and then you check. But for me, I come from Bugisu. We want government support under Ministry of Cooperatives. We have a stake there. Under Ministry of Agriculture, we have a stake there. The issues of the concerns have been listed. Changing a department or any department, coffee must. And I like the message of the message of Mengo. The Katikilo has said, grow coffee. Do not lose the sight on the goal. Because with or without UCDA, coffee will grow and coffee will be exported. That's my take on this. The message is very key, and I think somebody else said it. But I like one of the categories. It's my take home. Grow coffee. You will grow and export with or without UCDA, because UCDA is a government department like any other.
Hogged the microphone.
And the coffee has been liberalized. The economy of Uganda has been liberalized. So you can have your license as a private company and export coffee. And
these people speak a little bit. So Lydia says he likes Katikiro's message, but the Katikiro also says that we like the Coffee Authority. He said that. But that aside, do you think the way Parliament has conducted itself on the discussion around this bill is clouding matters?
Oscar, it is a question of, like you say, how they conduct the matters. I've had the privilege of watching and following parliaments in the region and indeed in this continent. But one of the most heated parliament is the one of South Africa. When the Honorable Julius Malema is raising matters with the EFF, you see real grounding information coming out, and in most cases they are always expelled from the House. And when I watched Parliament yesterday, I felt this: if the matters of discussion cannot sink into people's heads, then standing up is one of the options. Standing up, and like he has said, the Honorable Semakade, Council Semakade, banging tables. There was a lot of banging tables in Parliament yesterday. I think after the mayhem that befell Parliament in 2018 during the amendment of Article 102 B. This was one of the most animated sessions in Parliament, with people standing up on either side and trying to make equivocal their point. And I liked the...
And that is provided for in the rules.
And for me,
so
I said...
using the rules of parliament.
And for me, I said, I love it because I've seen it elsewhere, and certainly it makes sense, and it brings out emotions. It brings out the real emotions. When I was listening to the Honorable Geoffrey Lutaya, pointing out what coffee exactly means to some of their families, some of our families, it is certainly important that when people are agitated enough, let them express themselves like the way they were. The only ugly bit of it is trying to tribalize this whole debate. It was very ugly. It looked ugly, and would have not known anything about the tribalistic innuendos that there were until that voice of the speaker went through, I think, very inadvertently through the microphone and naming certain tribes. In whichever context it was, it makes everything look very ugly.
But I want to make it clear that that's not the position of the NRM party or government.
I don't know.
I'm telling you because I
don't know, Honorable.
I'm telling you, I'm an authority.
Yes, you are.
I sit in these forums.
Yes.
When you were in caucus, there was nothing tribal. I told you I come from Bali. So
we would like to see a statement from government side.
No, we cannot make statements. We are not in parliament. But I'm now telling you on air.
There's already a statement.
Eh?
There is a statement insinuating that this was an AI artificial intelligence
that you are trying to use for your own means.
Yeah, I don't think it was artificially manufactured.
Let's go to George here.
This was a statement that came through. I know experts who have come out to sieve and take it through the process, and it is a human voice speaking. And for me, that made the whole debate very ugly. It makes it very ugly, and probably it actually brings out what government and some people within government think about this country.
A message from Elizabeth to Honorable Namuga. Tell Honorable Namuga that he should also campaign to rationalize our parliament. There are 535 members in the United States Congress, 100 in Senate, and 435 in the House of Representatives. Okay. So you start with that one as well for your next rationalization campaign. But George Musi, as Lydia pointed out, and Honorable Namuga also pointed that out a little earlier, both UCDA and the ministry and NRM, so to speak, they are government. So now when you have tribal undertones where it is alleged that a speaker is whispering or even planning with a whip,
it is not the position of the NRM
to defeat a section of her people. So how does that come across?
Well, yes, they are both government, but what was the purpose of having these specialized agencies in the first place? The purpose was to ensure efficiency in a particular sector. That is why they were got out of the mother ministries, and that's why it informed the basis of forming them in the first place. That let's have a specialized sector dealt with specifically for purposes of efficiency. And just like that debate was lost because some of them were formed as a result of politics, then even the essence of rationalization is being lost in the politics, because the essence of rationalization would have been informed by how has this agency been performing, looking at each one of them in the first place. And I want to imagine that going by the reports I've been seeing, UCD is one of those that have been performing quite well. And then the capacity of absorption, that should be the debate, that when it goes there.
I don't know, because at some point I'll have a discussion, I'll invite people, UCD and all, because I don't know, I would not agree with anyone that UCD has been one of the top performers, but that's just my uninformed information for now.
Well,
I'll do some research into
I just want to look at it in the basis of the progress, the progress in terms of exports. If you're looking at it that way, at least there's been some bit of progress by the published reports.
Fair enough.
Of course, there are other players. So
there are other players like Operation Wealth Creation. They were issuing seedlings.
Those are minor.
Of course, but
they are there.
Pineti.
So Oscar, sadly,
no, we didn't support Pineti.
The debate is not being informed by whether we think the role UCDA has been playing will be performed more efficiently if it goes into the mother ministry. It's now lost in the politics. And of course, when you're talking about coffee, it has other overtones. There are overtones of livelihoods which are dependent on it. There are overtones of people who identify with it. Lydia has mentioned Mbale. It's predominantly Buganda. It's predominantly coffee growing.
And West Nile. I've been to Zombo. They are coffee growers.
And then you remember the overtures of the Pineti style overtures that actually this coffee business, there's been egos hovering over it. So that is also on the backdrop of many of people who are opposing this. Then it goes back because initially, Oscar, you asked about the conduct of the debate. For me, of course, it was overshadowed by the seemingly tribal slur from by the presiding officer. For me, even worse than the tribal slur is the partiality of the presiding officer, the seeming partiality. If you leave out that Uganda statement, that the fact that the presiding officer is checking with the chief of whether you have the numbers, that's even worse, possibly. Because as per the rules of procedure, and which have been even
supposed to be neutral,
and they have been interpreted.
Can you mobilize?
The most recent constitutional court decision in the case of Zake said that the speaker should remain as impartial as possible in debate. They even compared the presiding officer to a judge, to the role of a judge. So for me, I don't even know which one is worse, whether the Baganda statement is worse than the seeming partiality of and of course that's what I think Honorable Godith was saying, that what will happen to the product, because what is if you look at the process and how the process and the proceedings are going on, what product can come out of a process which is as partial, where we have a presiding officer descending into the arena of the debate and even choosing sides. So you cannot now take away the politics out of it, because and possibly we may not have a bill passed on the basis of whether it's right or not, but right now, of course, it's overshadowed by political overtones, and it's no longer the issue about rationalization.
Let's stop for a quick break here, and I'll ask Honorable Namuga a question about why the Baganda numbers, and then we'll maybe move to another topic. We'll come back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. So, Honorable Namuga, strange as it seems, this was very, very strange. Are there particular reasons for the Speaker to mobilize against a section of Parliament? And is this section of Parliament worth mobilizing against? Are you a dangerous group in Parliament? At some point, we have to address that, and then, since you are in Parliament, it was a question of mobilizing against you. Why? Why not mobilize against the Bagisu, who are main coffee growers?
I should state that what happened is very regrettable of a presiding officer who we thought would be neutral to either party. And I also remember a statement that was made, whether you want or not, UCDA will be rationalized. During the course of the debate, whether you make noise, the speaker, whether you make noise or what, it will be rationalized, whether you make noise or not. But I think at times that's why I said God is good. Because if, unfortunately, if the microphone was muted, you wouldn't have known that that statement was made. And out of 100, you only had just a small percentage. But for me, I believe there must have been a broader discussion than that we had out in the media. But the question is, number one, there is a clerk who is supposed to be a public servant. How do you involve a clerk in mobilizing politicians? Go and see whether we have the numbers. Because could be she was skeptical that we might move out and outnumber them. So please make sure you mobilize. As we get back, make sure you have the numbers. And they moved out and make the calls. There are so many people who are not around. They made the calls. I saw Honorable Nabanja running in. That wouldn't have been a problem, because that is all about that is about whipping, but not the clerk. The clerk cannot mobilize for NRM. The clerk is a public servant who is supposed to serve all of us. So I think there have been so many questions out there about the way we conduct Parliament, about the presiding officers, and I think God has brought it at the right time to learn from it. To learn from it, I don't know whether they will learn, but also this questions the independence of Parliament, the legislature, because we cannot work on directives. Because I don't think the presiding officer was doing it as an individual. No, there must be a very invisible hand. She must have been put on pressure, because I had calls were coming in all over, even right from the head of the state. You must rationalize. Our colleagues were being, they were being put on pressure. You must, the president directed.
As Lydia says.
No, for us it is an official position
with
of the party.
No,
the decision was passed as resolution of sake.
Oscar, whipping is okay.
There was no need for pressure.
But if you infringe on the independence of members, I should inform the country. I belong to the National Unity Platform. But when I represent, when I bring a position that is different from what the people of Maogola say, then I'm misrepresenting them. Because I must be bold to tell my party that, Honorable Mr. President, much as you are saying this, but the people of Maogola have a different view. They must be listened to. So when you look at whatever happened in the NRM, in Parliament, we are facing a challenge. We thought it was a policy shift. Little did we know that we are in a political shift. So when it becomes a political shift, then it becomes a different story. And when it comes to make sure these Uganda don't get numbers, I'm telling you, it has shifted differently. And we are going to mobilize the community. Yes, we must fight for our rights as the Uganda. But I want to...
But how do you correct the image in Parliament?
Who corrects the image?
You Buganda caucus. How can you stop
What
such
did we
rhetoric?
do? What did we do? What did the Buganda? You tell the person who said it to correct. What did the Buganda caucus do? Is Buganda caucus at fault in any way? But I want to, in a humble way, I want to mobilize Ugandans, because we still have this bill. It is still there. I mobilize you to give your MPs your position. MPs should represent their constituencies, not an individual. We are not working for Mr. Museveni alone. So get the ideas from your people, come and represent them. Okay. Otherwise, I should, lastly, for me, I normally want to look at things with objectivity. We understand we must run this country together, because as they are in the ruling government, our duty is to put them to check. I want our colleagues to appreciate that once there is an error, executively withdraw, because at least the NRM can know. The Honorable Leader has been saying it outright that Mr. Museveni was voted by the people and is working for the people. Now, if you are working for the people, they are saying no.
And don't claim to say you are
and
more
they are saying no. No, we are more pro people than him, because he's fighting the voice of the people. Oscar, the people are saying no to coffee. Then you are saying yes. So Mr. Museveni, who are you working for?
The coffee bill. Okay.
But the coffee bill, what are you working for?
There's a difference between the coffee and the department called UCDA. You see,
no, but these move together. You cannot separate them.
No, the sector was liberalized.
No, Lydia, and lastly, I should encourage all of us. We should embrace the spirit of private-public partnership. The private sector should not be seen as a competitor to government, because the government knows that there are those that we can do better with authorities, and that is why I was talking about the off-budget support. Now money goes direct to authorities than the ministry. Lastly, I can give you an example of NITA Uganda. There is a loan for expansion of network.
It is the reason why to got that extension of 3 years.
Government knows that they will not get some funding because of those irregular dealings. They know it. And they are not afraid of losing it, because for their interest is not to serve the people, but to serve themselves and their political party.
Which political party now?
The outgoing NRM.
We will be here.
Derek, Moses Biaruhanga sends a message to Honorable Namuga, saying Honorable Namuga is telling lies, that since Rural Electrification Authority was rationalized, no rural electrification has been done. That's a lie. First of all, the projects that were ongoing by the time of rationalization were completed by the Ministry of Energy, and secondly, new ones have been started by the ministry, and he's gotten that information from the Permanent Secretary, Princess Irene Batebe.
Can I respond?
Yes, please. In 2 minutes.
I let them bring evidence. I have evidence of so many districts, including mine, where polls have stood for so many years. So they should bring evidence. It's not a matter of, giving information here. And the minister has been reporting on that. And there was a move, if he doesn't know, there was a move to bring a motion to remove REA from the ministry. And I think they felt it was embarrassing, and that's why they dropped it. But they wanted to remove it from the ministry again. So he cannot claim to be performing better than it was when it was independent.
Okay. So the journalist, Derek Kwandera, take us through the Jinja Hospital. A Mr. Leeds gets an accident in Uganda. fortunately treated, and lo and behold, he builds a ward very quickly in an amount of money that you could also have used for other things.
Yeah, Mr. Leeds, like you said, I think got an accident on water in Jinja on River Nile, and I think he hit he hit the bottom of the water. Stones crushed his bones and things like that, and he was picked and taken to Jinja Main Hospital, where he met one of the orthopedic doctors there, worked on him. But while in hospital, he faced the real meaning of lack of incompetence or even inadequate support to some of the people with whom he was being treated. Lucky for him, he got better, and he went for further medication. But then he remained meditating upon the other people that might be in his own predicament anytime from there. So he came back, and he got in touch with the orthopedic doctor who worked on him, and he funded the construction of the ward, which mainly is an orthopedic hospital, but also handling other issues, other health complications. It's a 64-bed ward that he used about 1 billion or thereabout 1 billion, because it was $300,000 US to construct the ward in a record 7 months. A thing that has shocked many of us Ugandans, and I know even President Museveni must be shocked, because he is not sure that something like that can happen. So there has been debate on whether this can help the government in power to try to take notes, to try to help us understand why, for instance, the Lubowa Hospital has taken more than close to 10 years now to just ground break, and yet money has already been sunk in there. And we also are wondering, how possible is it that you can build such a hospital with that kind of capacity at only 1 billion? It would have been maybe a trillion shillings for our government officials to construct that one, but it would not be done by now. But yes, the people of Jinja are enjoying the facility. Many journalists have visited. I'm yet to visit the ward, and also I want to speak to Mr. Leeds to just understand in an interview about like how this happened in that kind of supersonic speed, but also what's more to his inspiration than just his accident. Yeah,
George. So these things are possible.
Of course, we've been so used to the NRM stroke Lydia, who's representing it here.
That's what you talk about your colleague.
We've been so used to the inefficiencies, especially when it comes to service delivery.
At least we have UCDA.
And the
NRM government.
Amidst that, and we're saying that corruption,
which UCDA you're trying to kill.
I certainly believe that because corruption is one of their delivery models when it comes to service delivery, you find that it totally promotes the incompetence that Derek is talking about, that a project of 5 years will take 10 years, and then it will cost 3 times as much. That debate has always been there when it comes to roads. They say, how comes this road costs this much? Then we talk about all the other things that we invested public monies in. You can people have been drawing parallels between Mr. Leeds Hospital and the specialized hospital at Lubowa. The amount of money costing, and then people are doing parallels with Atiak, where billions, over 500 billions have been sunk in those so-called public-private partnerships, which don't even seem to be producing dividends. You can talk about day and so many other things. So it's an insult, and it should be slapped in the face of the government. But however, they cannot change that, because like I've mentioned, corruption is the way in which they're holding on to power. And there are not so many in many management models. Oscar, you're a manager and you're a supervisor, you know that results and delivery of results on a timely manner is one of the things that you should emphasize to your people downstream. Many of the people of NRM, be it technocrats, be it politicians, they know that that is not one of the marks for you to hold on to the position. That is why, if I can draw parallels with Chitezi, when something happened and people are saying the ED should resign, she was seeing no reason to resign, because all around her she's seeing other people who are possibly also incompetent, who are possibly negligent, but not being held to account. So once in a while, when those Samuel lead stories come about, they just remind us how far we have fallen.
Lydia, there's a Lugeda Michael on X, formerly Twitter. He says, Oscar, I would love you to be the Oscar of yesteryears, whom you can't intimidate for. The real, the REA thing Namuga is talking about is the truth. Okay, and he continues. I should tell Michael that I also know a bit about REA, because for a long while Chigo Thinkers has done things on umeme and the electricity sector, and I fully disagree with Moses Biaruhanga. But that's for another discussion, another day. For now, Leeds Hospital.
I was impressed, by the way. I don't know whether it's open, that we can have 64 bed.
Sorry, I shouldn't call it hospital.
64 bed. 62 bed hospital built in a very short time, but also state of the art by a volunteer. And I hope that we can receive that in good faith and embrace support. That's all I can say, because it's an added infrastructure that is very good to the community, like giving back to the community. Oscar, aren't you a member of the Rotary Club?
I was about to tell you that,
because I've seen Rotary. I've seen organizations outside the bureaucracy of government and corruption do things smart. And I wanted to give an example of Rotary, because Rotary has done water, done schools, they've done cheaper, smarter, but also in shorter time, and they've given them to the community. So I think we can appreciate Leeds in the line like how Rotary does stuff. Yeah.
And you know, we've in Rotary, we've have the works we've done in Zambia Hospital are tremendous.
Yeah.
But you have to think about you know, sometimes when we are putting things to you, can't just say I have nothing to say, because you are, as George here said, you are the one.
But I've given my opinion. I'm like, what Rotary does is way ahead.
You are government. You are. Never forget.
No, government has its own challenges. There's bureaucracy. It has the challenges. They have the unit cost. The unit cost vary. The unit cost of what is happening in Sembabule hospital can actually vary from what is happening in a hospital in Lira, and yet they are all under Ministry of Health or under Ministry of Infrastructure. But for agencies that are like Rotary, very driven by passion and empathy, they deliver on time, they deliver quality, and they're also accountable because it's their money.
Speaker of Parliament donated 1 billion for the completion of a radiotherapy center for the 2024 run.
So it's very interesting.
With a strong sense of accountability. Those organizations, sense of accountability.
They have a strong sense of accountability, but also they want to have an impact on the community. It is satisfying to do something that is going to benefit people, right? But for government has its own bureaucracies and history. And that's why we have agencies that are supposed to do what you would call oversight. These namugas are supposed to make heads roll, people lose jobs. That's their work. Oversight. I don't know whether they are doing it.
What Leeds Hospital ward was completed. Very pleasing.
I thank first of all Leeds for the contribution to this country. and also remind the government that that is why we normally push that they should at least leave the private sector to do business, and also the NGOs. Because of this shrinking civic space, the NGOs have pulled out, and they were helping in so many things. Because government cannot work alone. We should appreciate government cannot give these services alone. That is why you've been talking about Rotary. Others can help, but it is the duty of government to really give some of these services, all these services to the people. Others are just coming in to help. I want us to appreciate one thing, that the reason as to why a facility constructed independently by an individual is cheaper than that constructed by government, it is because of, we can say bureaucracy, but because of what the systems that they go through. First of all, we should appreciate that corruption is a challenge, but for example, if you are to construct a hospital on your own, you don't have to bid. You don't have to, when it comes to taxes, the charges are differently. When it comes to these withholding charges, they are differently. So for me, what I would advise, when you talk about this 1 billion, technically, when you get to the 1 billion, add a 20% of the processes that one who is private would have gone through to offer the same services to government. Because these processes, for example, if you advertise, somebody makes an application, bid security, making documents, all that is a cost that a contractor attaches to, a project. So we should appreciate some of those facts, that at any time you cannot find a project that is handled independently by an individual cost the same as how government would do it. 2, the challenge we have with government, as much as we have those processes, we had requested that can we get reserve prices? At least a benchmark, for example. If it's to construct, say, a 64-bedroom ward, how much would it cost? So that we give, you give a benchmark. Otherwise, you found, the way Lydia has been saying, you find the same facility in Sembabule, in Rakai,
standard,
the same standard. The same standard, costing different. The figures are totally different. But government had begun a process of this hybrid procurement, especially in the ministries. From hybrid, they've gone to the engineering brigade. In the line of cutting costs, now all the hospital, all the health facilities are being constructed by the engineering brigade. But we would question, are we now seeing value for money if the engineering brigade is handling business? 2, because I saw this as a way of pushing the private sector unfairly. Because for the engineering brigade, you have to give money, they buy the materials and construct. But for the private sector, I have to go, because we must appreciate the cost of capital. I have to look for where to get the money and do business. And you know what happens if after doing business, I will take so many years without being paid. So we should look at all those inefficiencies objectively. So government must check itself. Because one would ask, why do we have domestic areas to the tune of 10 trillion? People construct roads. You've seen it in UNRWA, in the Ministry of Works. A single ministry to have areas of 1 trillion. Somebody borrows money, works on a road, and is not paid. So what makes government projects expensive is one looks at when I bid, the time I will take to be paid. That is a cost, because I'm also paying interest on a loan. Then the processes that I will go through, because the leaders will say, as you handle our hospital, you must put 20% for the executive. Mr. Museveni wants his 20% for Lubawa. And the other thing is, some of these companies, as a directive, because you ask, how are these companies sourced? One will ask you, how did you get a contractor for Lubawa? Where did you get the contractor for Lubawa?
20%.
Who is the other person? Derek said Oscar was Fwa. Now, the other person who said Oscar of all would not be intimidated. So these things of 20% and George saying corruption is one of their delivery modes.
All
those ones we shall withdraw them from the program.
But
let me tell you, Namuga, sometimes if you are fair, I think you would say that it is the Lubawa hospital that clouded things. Because, for example, the maternity ward in Mulago Hospital was constructed to satisfactorily. The health center 3s, they may have challenges in operations. They were constructed. So we could do better. But when you have now a white elephant, Lubawa, is the one that brings all these things to the fore. Would you agree?
Government has known this for quite some time. Government has known it's good enough. You are talking to a person. I told you I've been in government for the last 14 years. I used to handle procurements, and I know the frustration that there is in the same system. Actually, we reached a level of amending the rules, amending the regulations, amending the act, in the interest of, say, removing some of those conditions that used to make the whole process expensive. But because corruption is in the DNA of this NRM government, there are things you cannot do without. Somebody, because it is Lydia who wants to construct a hospital, I'm talking about his president, wants to be the contractor, they will make the cost to be so high. You find exorbitantly raised prices because it is in the interest of one person. Somebody will ask, Honorable, is it Museveni who evaluates the bids? But I will tell you, some of these are directives. That is why you find some people getting contracts single-handedly. You just have Peneti in Rubawa. Somebody asks, how did this one get there? No question. So on the side of government, because at the end of the day, it is a loss. 80% of your budget is spent through procurement.
Okay.
You had the Bank of Uganda one pen. Was it 2 million? A single pen? Go into the details even. Get there even apart from the buildings.
You go 350,000.
You go to government and question a ream of paper. You will find a ream of paper buying 50,000 in government.
Thank you, Honorable Namuga. Thank you, listeners of Capital Gang. Let me allow George Musi to have final word on Gang. I hope he does not say words that I'll have to erase. And George, I've been listening.
You should not talk about models. He's not competent to speak about models of NRM. You should leave that to me.
I've been listening to the BBC lately and learning a lot more on how to moderate. Like when Honorable Namuga says this one is going to eat this man, I said, no, that person is not there to defend themselves. Please.
That is true.
So,
Oscar, we are so polarized as a nation, as a society, that sadly many people don't see things which concern all of us without wearing political or now even seeming the tribal lenses. And I think we should all aspire. I don't know whether under the circumstances possible, but I think we should all aspire for society where good is good, irrespective of who is doing it. We should all aspire for a society which respects the rule of law. The rule of law, the basic principle, Oscar, many people talk about it, but the basic principle is that treat everyone equally, as per what the law says. When you start shifting because it suits this, and you'll never know. It goes back to that saying of when they came for these ones, are not here. So let's all aspire to treat each person as...
So, and finally from you, what are you going to do about those people who are still incarcerated?
Of course, like we've always been doing, the issue is to use every avenue available in the law to try to secure their freedom. Every avenue, including both from those courts and from these other courts. Every avenue available in the law, we shall try to use it.
Okay. Thank you so much, listeners.
Lydia should leave the institutions of government to be independent.
What do you mean by
leave them to be
independence?
peddling must, and that's the only problem that you have.
No, government
leave
runs under
institutions to
political
work.
leadership.
Leave institutions to work.
Like
Don't
which
give
one?
them blueprints.
Like
Please,
which one?
Mr. Museveni is saying buy this.
Do I need a show of just Namuga and Wanyoto?
I think
Just
Namuga and
two of them.
Wanyoto have taken over the show, and they have had...
Namuga who is provoking me. Why are you now saying my name? She's the one provoking me.
So thank you, Star Cafe, for
NRM is in
powering
power.
the gang.
How would you deny their role to
George Musi,
oversee
I hope
government?
you notice that we don't
Mark
bring
your
chapati in your pocket. Gang is very safe because of Star Cafe. Thank you, listeners, for listening to the Capital Gang. Honorable Namuga, thank you very much. Derek Wandera, thank you very much. George Musi, Advocate, thank you very much. Honorable Wanyoto, thank you so much. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke, and I shall see you next week.
On 91.3 Capital FM.